Okay, I have tons of catching up to do because I've actually been getting a chance to read and I haven't had a chance to do any videos. First thing I read recently was, it's called Whedonistas. I already had to return it to the library because it was out of system and it's due back. But it's called Whedonistas. It's edited by Lynne Thomas and Deborah Stanish. It's a book by this really cool sounding publisher called Mad Norwegian Press, who also did a book called Chicks Dig Time Lords. And that one was also really good. It was a bunch of different essays or whatever. And some were only a couple pages and some were like 4 or 5 pages, and there are a couple like interviews, kind of like what you see in magazines, all about people who, or chicks actually, girls, women, who love Doctor Who and why they love it and how they started with it and everything. And this one, Whedonistas, is about pretty much everything Joss Whedon's done. So there's people saying about how they love Firefly or Buffy or Angel or Dollhouse or what else? There's other stuff. I know there's other stuff, but that's the primary ones. And Dr. Horrible sing-along blog, there's that too. And they were all talking about that and everything and how awesome it is and all this. And same concept, essays and stuff. And it was really interesting, and I kind of liked it a little bit more than the Doctor Who one, simply because it wasn't about one single TV show. It would jump back and forth, and they're all about stuff that I love. And yeah, I would love to show you the cover and everything, but I said I had to return it. So I finished that, and then I was working on the one that I showed you in my last video, Never Let Me Go, and I got distracted because I got, I got distracted by Whedonistas because I had to return it. I didn't want to read it. And then I got some stuff in at the library, and I got distracted by this book. It's called Girl Interrupted. It's really interesting. It's a nonfiction. It's a memoir by Susanna Kaysen. There we go. And it's not terribly long. I mean, I was able to finish it in a day. I mean, I started it the other evening before I went to bed, and then I read it a couple hours before I had to go to work the next morning and finished it off. But it's really interesting. Short version is this girl, she's 18, and she went to a psychiatrist that she'd never seen before, and not very much after her appointment, she's getting sent off to a mental hospital and she ended up being there for almost 2 years. And as you're reading it, you kind of get the sense of, okay, why is she here? She doesn't really need to be here. And then something happens and you're like, okay, this is why. And it turns out at the end, I don't want to ruin it for you, but basically it turns out she has borderline personality disorder, which, the very first real video I posted on here, one of Laura Lejeune's videos, if you go to her channel, she is doing videos where other YouTubers take over her channel right now. And the one she did recently, or the most recent one I've seen, was somebody talking about borderline personality disorder, which I'd never really heard of. And they mentioned this book, and it was on my list, so I went ahead and ordered it and read it. It's a really good book. It's definitely worth reading, and you can learn a lot from it. And I would definitely suggest going on Laura's channel and checking out that video as well. So I read that, and then finally got Never Let Me Go finished. It sounds like a romance, and it ends up being a romance, but it doesn't start that way. The problem, it's by Kazuo Ishiguro. There we go. And there's also a movie based off of it. The movie's really good too. I started reading the book, and there are very few books that I simply cannot get through. Most books, even if they bore me, I can finish them. And this one was getting to the point where it's like, what are they talking about? I don't know what is going on in this book. I don't know how much longer I can read this thing. even though it sounded really interesting. Because how I heard about it was I saw a preview for the movie, so I thought, well, I'll read the book first. I was having such a hard time getting through the book, I finally, about a third of the way through it, gave up and watched the movie. I'm like, okay, this is what's going on. Let's read the book and find out what actually happened. So I finished reading the book. Oh, what's today? Friday? I finished it Wednesday. And it turns out really interesting. It's sad. I don't really cry at books or movies for that matter, but so it wasn't like sad enough to make me cry, but it's sad. It's basically like an alternate history, I guess. Starting about the 1950s, things branch off from how they went in reality to how they went in the world of the book. And I don't want to ruin it for you. There's medical advances, and it kind of takes you towards the end of the book till you definitively figure out what is going on and what these medical advances were. So people don't have to worry about cancer or heart disease or any of that stuff anymore. But it's good because it's interesting and it shows, like I said, it's like an alternate history, so it shows what could happen, I suppose. Like I said, it's really interesting. It's kind of hard to really talk about it without ruining it and spoiling it, because like I said, you don't really find out definitively what's going on till the end. But definitely worth reading. It does take a little bit, or it did for me at least, to get through the very first part. And get to the end, but once you start getting about halfway through, it starts getting to where it's not the kind of book I couldn't put down, but it's the kind of book where it's like, okay, I can't wait till I can go back to it. So I liked it. And those are the 3 I've read recently. I'm actually fixing to go to the library and pick up more stuff. Yay. So next time I get a book done, I will of course post a video. And as usual, can never tell if I'm going to get distracted and start reading something else. But what I'm reading right now is this book called January 1st. So theoretically that'll be the next one I post, but who knows. Bye.